بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Welcome back from Ramadan break, Eid break, and inshallah may Allah accept our Ramadan with the best way and may it be a nourishment for the rest of our days, inshallah. So we are continuing with 25th word, which is a long treatise about the Quran and its eloquence. We left off at second ray here, and so we'll continue from there. Is there anyone who would like to read?
I can read, inshallah. Bismillah. Let me make the screen big. Bismillah. This ray is the Qur'an's extraordinary comprehensiveness. It consists of 5 flashes. The first flash is the comprehensiveness in the words. This comprehensiveness is clearly apparent from the verses mentioned both in all the previous words and in this word, and is indicated by the hadith. Each verse has an outer meaning, an inner meaning, a limit, and an aim. And each
1 second, Alia, the Arabic of it is here.
لكل آية ظهر وبطن وحد ومطلع ولكل شجون. Can I read it? Can I ولكل شجون وغصون وفنون. Okay.
So we'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, it makes it easier when the Arabic comes out first. Each verse has an outer meaning, an inner meaning, a limit, and an aim. And each verse has roots and buffs and branches. What does buffs mean?
Bows?
Bows or buffs. I didn't understand the Arabic as well. So, غصون is branches. فنون, شجون.
What is shujun?
Shajan, I think shajan is like something in the heart, like an overwhelming feeling in the heart. Shujun. Funun is artistry, and ghusun is branches. So it stirs the heart. So each ayah also stirs the heart in a grabbing way.
But it has roots, so it's a kind of trees part. Like bo is the main branch, it says in the dictionary. So roots, main branch, and then the branches go into smaller, branches.
But the Arabic was not that. Shujun wa ghusun wa funun. They were not related to the tree. Only ghusun. Shujun. Yamina, do you agree?
Is there another meaning for shujun?
Maybe there's another
meaning comes from shajan. Is this Turkish? Does it have a Turkish meaning?
No, it's Arabic. No, it's...
No, I mean...
No.
So, Bismillah. Let's complete reading. It will become clear.
Is it the trunk, maybe?
No, shajan, shujun is not the trunks.
Naima clarified in the chat, her bows are the main large branches of a tree, often extending directly from the trunk, distinct from smaller.
The bows, okay. So the words of the Quran have been positioned in such a way that all its phrases, words, even letters, and sometimes even an omission has many aspects. It gives to all those it addresses their share from a different door. Take, for example, the verse, and the mountains its pegs. A phrase, let's go back to the Arabic. The Arabic
والجبال أوتادا.
Tada. And the mountains are made pegs, like Autada, like are made pegs. Or it's referring to the earth, like the mountains, the pegs of the earth, its pegs. A phrase which says, I made the mountains as stakes and masts for that earth of yours. An ordinary person's share from this phrase would be this. He sees the mountains which appear like stakes driven into the ground. I'm just thinks of the benefits and bounties in them and offers thanks to his creator. Yeah, I was trying to make the font bigger. A poet's share from this phrase, he imagines the earth as the ground on which is pitched in a sweeping arc the dome of the heavens, like a mighty green tent adorned with electric lamps, and he sees the mountains skirting the base of the heavens to be the pegs of the tent. He worships the all-glorious Maker in wondering amazement. A tent dwelling, literally man's share of this phrase, he imagines the face of the earth to be a barren desert, and the mountain chains as the multifarious tents of nomads, as if the soil layer had been cast over high posts, and the pointed tips of the posts had raised up the cloth of the soil, which he sees as the habitation of numerous different creatures, looking one to the other. He prostrates in wonder before the glorious Creator, who placed and pitched so easily these august and mighty beings like tents on the face of earth. The share of a geographer with a literally bent from this phrase, he thinks of the globe of the earth as a ship sailing the oceans of either the air or the three-quarter
Ether, I think it's Mr.
yeah, of the
Ether.
either the air over the ether, and the mountains as masts and posts driven into the ship to balance and stabilize it. He declares, Glory be unto you. How sublime is your glory before the all-powerful one of perfection, who makes the mighty globe as an orderly ship, places us on it, and makes it voyage through the far reaches of the world. August adjective means respected. Thank you, Ruban. A sociologist and philosopher of human society share of this phrase, his thoughts would go like this. The earth is a house, and the supporting post of the life of that house is animal life, while the supporting posts of animal life are water, air, and earth, the conditions of life. And the supporting posts of water, air, and earth are the mountains. For the mountains are the reservoirs for water, the combs for the air. They precipitate the noxious gases and purify it. They are the earth's preserver. They preserve it from being transformed into a swamp and from the encroachment of the sea. They are also the treasuries for other necessities of human life. In utter reverence, he offers praise and thanks to the Maker of glory and kindness, who made these great mountains as posts for the earth, the house of our life, in this way, and appointed them as the keepers of the treasuries of our livelihood. The share of a scholar of natural science from this phrase would be this. He would think of the earthquakes and tremors which occur as the result of upheavals and fusions in the heart of the earth, being calmed with the upthrust of mountains, that the emergence of mountains is the cause of the earth's stable rotation on its axis and in its orbit, and it's not deviating. Who is the translator? Okay. And it's not deviating in its annual rotation as a result of the convulsions of earthquakes, and that the anger and wrath of the earth is quieted through it breathing through the vents in the mountains. He would come to believe completely and would exclaim, all wisdom is God's.
Okay.
You want to stop before we go to...
So this hadith is known, I think, especially among exegetes, mufassirun, outer, inner meaning, a limit and an aim, which is in Arabic ظهر وبطن وحد ومطلع. So it's just a good highlight of the fact that the verses can have many meanings at the same time, and all of them being correct. It's not just one, the verse means just one thing, and then we're trying to find that one meaning. The verse can have many meanings. And then there's branches and trunks and roots, meaning there are even like not just these 5 types of meanings, but there are even more layers within each as well. Please then, Naim.
Okay, so I've never heard this hadith before, so I'm intrigued by this. And what I'm taking from that hadith is, for me, it's saying stop. Like just stop at that. Just one verse has many doors to it. And so it just makes you want to investigate. Like if you've, I don't know if you've been to the forest and you see this tree that's so huge and big, like you're just sitting there like, wow, this is like just in awe and just in like wonder and just very curious and like when was it planted? How long has it been? Like there's all these questions that you have about that tree. And that should be the same way that we're looking at each verse, with that same like awe and wonder and really exploring it, the depth of it. So for me, that just makes me pause, because like it's telling me like slow down and actually simmer and sit with just the verse. We're not even talking about the whole Qur'an. Like there's so many verses in the Qur'an, but a verse, subhanAllah.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I wanted to briefly share this reference from a commentator, Ibn Ajiba, from Morocco. And in his introduction to his tafsir, he sets out, his method in approaching, and then he refers to the saying of the Prophet. This way, this one translated as every verse has an outer aspect, an inner, a limit, and a vantage point. Al-Muttala. And so he's interpreting like the outward is for the grammarians. Inward is people focusing in the inner, the meanings, where he includes commandments, prohibitions, parables, narratives, oneness of God, and teachings. And then the limit, he thinks it refers to especially people who are looking into fiqh, deriving rules. And then the vantage point, al-muttala'u, he says it's, he's also a Sufi scholar, so he's like, it's for the people who are going deeper, or like actually like looking from like a vantage point from high up to like deep meanings in the verse. We don't have to take his way of understanding this hadith, but I'm saying, I just wanted to highlight that this hadith is known by exegetes, and they try to make sense of it in their own methods, within their own methods.
Assalamu alaikum. Just for those who take classes or something, many may say this is a weak hadith because, not because of the meaning, because of the silsila, the chain of, and so it's known as mursal, which means it's the companions quoted it without saying who, without mentioning who exactly related it. So according to the science of hadith, what makes a hadith sound is also not only the content and the meaning, but also who said it, and you have to know everything. So, however, so it's, when you say mursal, it means it was quoted and people focused on the meaning and its application rather than who heard it first from the Prophet ﷺ and who said it to who. Apart from this, so as if you are a hadith expert, you can't put it, if you don't know where it's coming from, you can't quote it as a strong hadith. However, among the people of tafsir, the commentator, it is widely applied and accepted in all Islamic scholarship. So just, when you don't know and you hear something, like if you read Imam Ghazali, some people say, oh, but this hadith is da'if, it's weak, but he's not using it to bring a law like haram, halal. So he doesn't have to make sure that the line is correct. He only has to make sure that the meaning is consistent with the teachings of the Qur'an and the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. So that's a misunderstanding among Muslims, especially when you don't know Islamic scholarship and you are just learning and people get confused. So just clarification, inshallah.
Thank you.
And shujun, I looked at the dictionary now because as far as I know, I was not aware that it has that meaning. As far as I know how it's used in Arabic, it refers to sorrow or in emotional entanglement, but usually with the connotation of sadness and sorrow. So in the first dictionary, I couldn't find it, but in another one, it says one metaphorical meaning or usage, I guess meaning as well, is that, how do you say when things are entangled? Like here he says,
I found it. It was called
like a network.
Intersections. It was
like network.
Yeah.
So I guess there is like emotional entanglement. They took it as the entanglement of the branches of a tree. So I was not aware of that because it was like weird, shujun, like it's from Shajan. This is to do with grief and sorrow, but apparently it has that meaning as well.
Yeah, I saw in Al-Ma'ani and it says intersection along with the other meanings.
Okay, because the first, I had to look at the second dictionary to find it.
Okay.
And what about funun? Is it the smaller branches? Funun?
Yes, I will say yes. As a non-native and non-expert, it must be so.
Jazakallah khair, Isra.
Trust me, it must be so. When you don't know, it's easier to trust. But basically, the way he's glossing that, explaining that in the Turkish also, he doesn't give the translation directly, but he says that as this says in Arabic, the words of the Quran have been positioned in such a way that all its phrases, words even, and even letters, and sometimes even an omission has many aspects. It gives to all those it addresses, all its audience, their share from a different door. So this is what he calls as the extraordinary comprehensiveness. جامعي جامعية جامعية. So it has this comprehensiveness with one sentence, one word. It can address many audiences at the same time, and each audience gets their share. And then to give an example, he gave this example of from Surah Naba 78:7. استعيذ بالله والجبال أوتادا. The mountains as its pegs. Are you able to relate to some of these meanings that he lists different meanings that different kinds of people would get from this verse? The ordinary person will see the mountains like stakes driven into the ground and thinks of the benefits and bounties and offers thanks. So it's a kind of a more general appreciation that these are intentionally placed on earth, and it has
The average person is so disconnected from nature and from mountains and things that it's difficult to even imagine anything to do with a mountain unless you live in the country or something.
So this is just like
especially now with the internet, with people are living in screens,
yeah.
in the real world. It's sad, but I don't know how you feel.
I almost feel like we need to take go on a trip, like go on a trip to certain places with these quotes as guiding, like guiding lights. Because if I think about this sitting at the base of a mountain, or like even looking at a picture, I could look at a picture, but being there is a totally different experience. And think about it, like contemplate this, it's very humbling.
So that is a little call for Naima's organization of a Receiving Nur mountain trip.
Here for it. I'm here for it.
But how about the pigs part though? Like وجعلنا والجبال أوتادا. Like what, you know, as an ordinary person, when I hear pegs, stakes, when I'm at all with that mountain, let's say we are in that trip and we're sitting at the base of a mountain, it's being described as being made as stakes. What would that say to me?
Could it be that the part, like what I see above the earth, like what is visible to me, does not explain how does it work, but the part that is not visible is the part that is the most important, and that is the part that can stabilize something like an earth, like it was like we, at the time of the revelation of the Quran, like no one knew that there's like an under earth part of the mountains. Like everyone just saw the above earth, but Allah was saying no, there is a part, and that part is like the wetted, and that's the part that is doing the work. It's not just the part that you see. So don't take things just for face value. There is much more to it that you don't see, and what you don't see is the crucial part of it.
And also in other places when Allah says, these are like, it's by amr of Allah that they are stabilizing, and then you'll see them as carded wool, and then so it's also gives you the perspective like they are staying where they are by amr of Allah and giving that stability. And that day the amr is taken away, it would be like carded wool.
Ziba, Amr is not taken away. A new Amr comes in.
Yeah, new amr comes in. Subhanallah. Yeah, thank you for correcting. Yeah. Tanzeel is happening, inshallah.
Okay, so I guess an ordinary person is looking at there and hearing it being presented as stakes driven into the ground. He senses some sort of purposefulness there, and then I think even people didn't have any science, they could see that there are benefits in the mountains, and whatever benefits they could think of, whether water or protection, they will offer thanks to the Creator. That's one person's share from this verse. And then there's some poetic approaches, a poet's share. Could you relate to this?
This was more like it brought a very nice visual, imagery. Like I never thought of it like this, but with this, like it feels like the sky is resting. It's being holded down by the mountain. It's like just a new imagery. I never, subhanallah, never thought of it like this.
So the poet imagines if mountains are like pegs, then the tent is the skies, and the base of the tent is this entire earth, and then the skies are like adorned with stars like electric lamps. So and perceives himself in that tent of the earth with mountains as the pegs. It's a kind of a poetic way of.
Because the nomads don't have those small tents that we think of camping. They are high. And the walls around, they only pull them down when they are resting or sleeping or at night. You can also take them up. And so you have only like a canopy actually on the top. And
that's the second one.
Stakes around.
A tent dwelling literary man. Is that
even the poet, like, because since I'm talking about myself personally, the only tents I know is like the small tents from camping. So I don't tend to imagine a tent that's spacious.
I think the people like I was listening to someone who was telling that Arabs have a concept like they need to have those tents, like khema, they call it khema, and now with the luxury they have, now they have khemas with, it's still like shaped like tent, but it has chandelier, it has everything. So they can't get rid of khema from their lives because it's so much ingrained in them. But with luxury, they have changed, but they're so big, as if it's like a big hall and has all the seatings, but it's still like you can't take, you were saying that you can't take khema out of an Arab, but you can take Arab out of a khema, but the khema you can't take it out of an Arab. So he was relating it that it's so ingrained because it has been
More rather than Arab, it's more Arab.
Arab. Okay.
Because the Prophet ﷺ, they were city dwellers. And in Algeria, for instance, the original people are not Arabs, they are Arabized. But in the Sahara, they have the same kind, similar tents. And they are Arab, they are nomads. Arab means nomad. So yeah, nomads, they have nostalgia for that life.
And then
And
also,
yes.
like they also set up today in the contemporary world, tents for parties or like graduation tents, sometimes like huge, because the weather may not be available to have an outdoor. So they have these huge tents. We have seen it too.
True. They are similar, like the ones in the Sahara. They are not like something you go down. It's like a big house, like a big maybe in other parts of the world also they have these kinds of tents, not only in the desert. Probably people who didn't have how to say permanent buildings.
So that's also pertaining to the second, the tent dwelling literary
The
meaning.
second one is Naima's retreat. That will be, it needs to, at night you feel it more. If you can see the stars and the Milky Way, it has to be a little bit away from the light pollution.
I think we should go to Morocco.
Just here in Virginia.
Yeah, if we go to Colorado, is it Colorado? No.
Remember
It's,
in Ziba's
oh yes.
wedding? When we were coming out, it was
Yes. We saw the northern lights at the wedding.
yeah, it was purple and all kinds of colors.
You don't have to go that far.
It's just Virginia, but a little bit away from the city. It was a little bit outside.
Okay, very nice.
Was it really Ziba's wedding? We need to ask her.
Ziba's son. It's the wedding that they organized.
I'm just joking.
So, but this person's share is a bit different because he is thinking of the earth to be a barren desert and the mountain
That's
chain.
the third one.
Yeah, this is multifarious tent.
This is different.
Yeah.
It's like in a desert, like he's in the desert.
Yeah, and he sees the soil layer has been
Cast.
like cast as if in the post, as if like the mountain itself is like a tent. And whereas in the other one, the sky was like a canopy, like the was a mighty green tent. In the other one, the tent dwelling Bedouin, I guess this is nomad. He may consider this as if the mountains themselves are the tips of them are the tent, and then the mountain vertically is the peg, and then there are different creatures living habitation over that. And but all of them, like when they hear this very short phrase, وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, they have somewhat different perceptions of what that peg would refer to. But ultimately, all of them in their own way, worshiping the all glorious maker in wondering amazement for the poet, and then the tent dwelling person with a poetic touch, he prostrates in wonder before the glorious creator who placed and pitched so easily these mighty beings like tents on the face of the earth. And then comes the geographer, which with also literary bent, but we need some poetic potential so far in each group. And he thinks of the earth like a ship sailing in space. And mountains are like in a ship. What do we have in a ship? Masts?
We have to go on a journey on ship as well too.
Yeah. Would you like to take that, Ziba? Naima took the mountain trip. Kiki, would you like to do the cruise?
I've never been to a cruise, so yeah, we need.
Not cruise, but like our ship. Yeah.
What does it mean, mast and post? So we need to know.
Yeah, like a ship, we need to see it close up. So he thinks of the mountains in that regard, like a geographer, as it were, is thinking about the entire globe within the context of the space and the way it's moving in the space, and it's stable. It's moving in a stabilized manner, and thinks of mountains as pegs, as helping stabilize that ship of the earth, just as a ship would have a mast and posts. And then again, it comes to the same conclusion of glorifying God. He declares, "Glory be unto you. سبحانك ما أعظم شانك." Glory be unto you. How sublime is your glory before the all-powerful one of perfection, who makes the mighty globe as an orderly ship, places us on it, and makes it voyage through the far reaches of the universe, I guess, world. Yeah, not the world, far reaches of the universe. Star al-A'lam. Okay, and now we come to the sociologist and philosopher of human society. The share of a sociologist and somebody who thinks about human society, what does he think? He's analyzing, reflecting on society and life. I guess he should be also a bit poetic. So the earth is like a house, and then the supporting, the axis of that house is animal life, and then the axis, the supporting post of that animal life are water, air, and earth, the conditions of life. And the mountains are the axis of all this water, air, and earth.
How was it translated? The word post in Arabic, like supporting post. What does it mean?
I think that's the only Turkish word in the entire sentence. Direk. Direk is literally a post that holds something up.
Like a column is how I'm imagining it. If you're,
Yeah.
this is like the saying that, if you have a hammer, all you see is nails, right? So that's obviously kind of negative, but the way I'm understanding his approach is everyone has a perspective through which they're seeing their life and interpreting their life. And so, someone who's a poet or someone who is a philosopher or sociologist, each of them is going to have one way of looking at the world, which is how they're mainly interacting with the world. So, a philosopher or sociologist most of what they're reading, thinking, right, is going to be about
what makes this society going, right? That's
right. Like, what is social life? What does human society need? How does it operate? And so even when they are just entertaining themselves, when they're just going about their way, even when they're not reading the Quran, anything that happens to them, that's usually how they are interpreting it. Like if you have a friend who studied psychology, right? When they're analyzing people or events, that's usually the lens through which they're analyzing it. They can say, oh, in psychology, there's a term for this, or, oh, this person might be having a crisis, or they might be feeling this way, because that's their way of looking at life. And so here I'm thinking, okay, a sociologist, philosopher, they're looking at how things interact with each other, what makes a society function. And so they're looking at this verse and they're thinking, okay, if the earth is a house, or if I'm looking at the entire earth as a society, what's kind of like the sporting function there? What is required for it to keep going? And that they're going to say, okay, that's animal life because we all depend on it one way or another. Then they're going to say, okay, what does animal life depend on? Oh, that's water, air, earth, conditions of life. Okay, and what do they depend on or how do they come about? And they're going to say, okay, all that like ecology, all those systems in the environment, the water, air, earth, they are coming from the way that the mountains are geologically created, right? If it was just all flat earth, we were not going to get these kinds of like, oh, the wind is not going to work this way. The water is not going to evaporate and come down like rain, right? So that's the way they're going to read it. And so just from like a more bird's eye view of how he's writing it, I feel like that helps to think that when we read the next parts, it's like you can think of your own life and it doesn't have to be your career. Like whatever is kind of like on your plate right now, that's that's how you're gonna interpret anything that life throws at you at any point.
And we are still talking about the outer meaning, right? All of these perspectives, they're still talking about the outer meanings, right? If we go back to the hadith that we mentioned in the beginning.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it might be. It might also be that he's taking that hadith as saying that the verse can have many meanings. Yeah, maybe these are the varieties of the outer meaning because each has its roots, boughs, branches.
So this
And
is
also,
the same speaking to different people. The balagha here is that it's open to everyone is understanding it differently,
interpretation.
that it's all consistent with the outer meaning.
and also like the point about the sociologist or each person, a nomadic person, they have their own perspective. At the same time, they are also being enlightened by the verse. So maybe that sociologist would not have thought about mountains in that way. Maybe the poet or nomadic person would not have thought of mountains in that way. But when they hear this Quran saying وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا, they're like, oh wow. So and then they all have their ways of coming to the aim of the Quran, which is to connect us with the transcendent. It's not to give us some information about the mountains and the stars. So all of them, I think this is very striking that all of them are, for them to be guided by the verse, they need to really tune into it, and then whatever they're getting from it, it brings them to glorify the Creator. So
it's making them like it's the mountains, how like they view it as like if it's mentioned in Quran, Allah is mentioning it, then it makes it more majestic, and then they are coming it to the conclusion of it being majestic, like how. So with their lenses, different lenses, like.
Mhm. The way poet is looking at
not
all
only majestic, but it's fulfilling functions as well that we usually tend to overlook. We take it because we take it for granted. Remember also the context of this ayah. So it's ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا. So
Surah
it's
Naba.
part of it's Surah Amma.
Naba.
عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم. And so this is how Allah is telling us people are in doubt of a Naba al-Azim. This is how he is going to tell us about Naba al-Azim. First, look around you. Look at the ayat, everything that you are taking for granted. First, there is each one of this ayah is an ayah in itself, and they are all interconnected, and they are all pointing to meanings well beyond themselves. I mean, normally we said we don't usually even maybe see mountains that often, but even if we saw them, unless we live and interact with them, we take them for granted. But actually they are very much part of our life, because the interconnectedness, unless we pause and reflect, we are not aware. It's like now people are all afraid of how everything, the price of everything is going to go up, and I've seen people scared because there may not be food, because what is that? What is used to grow food comes from a certain part of the world, and now there is war there. Subhanallah, most of the time we're not aware that things are coming from another part of the world, and that what we eat and how we go around and everything is interconnected. So can you imagine? This is just something very superficial. Very superficial if we compare it with the mountains, because the mountains, what we see up is just a fraction of what's underneath. And I don't know if you probably learned at school how the mountains are not, how do you say, they're not dead. It's still alive. Things are still being formed under those mountains. All kinds of stones and coal and all kinds of things. Because everything is in motion. Subhanallah. But so here it's attracting our attention, and that these mountains are not just something inanimate sitting there. They have many functions, and they are all related to Rububiyyah. So even if we don't go to the Rububiyyah, if we don't understand how they are related to my life, still you feel the awe, the beauty, the glory, something huge. So there are degrees. Depends on how much the person knows about the mountain, and as it was shared here as well, people look at it from different perspectives, because everyone is going to see it from what they already know and connect accordingly. But the most important thing is, at the end, there is this tasbih and this hamd, and inshallah.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah. Yes. We are definitely living in more artificial environments now. At the same time, we also know more about all these benefits of mountains, perhaps, all these things about it. They precipitate noxious cases.
What's the word?
Impure air. They purify the air. They preserve the land from being encroached by the sea. There are reservoirs for water, and then they have a lot of minerals or iron for the necessities of life. So this is who's this? Sociologist. I guess he happened.
And lots of, if someone is an ecologist, lots of sure animals and all kinds of life lives there.
Yeah, yeah. And then the final example he gave is scholar of natural science, and it's interesting. He said he will come to believe completely at the end. So I guess the natural science person is starts a bit confused, perhaps. But I think he's referring to geologists maybe here because he's making reference to earthquakes and tremors, and so the upheavals and fusions in the core of the earth core. With the mountains, they are being calmed down, and then the stable rotation happens through these mountains being formed. So a geologist would
Yeah, it's more like geologist because he's saying like what's happening under the earth, and the way he's describing it is like as if earth is moving very smoothly because mountains are venting out whenever there is inside any turmoil inside the earth. So it's venting out, so it's not letting it move away from the orbit, it's stable.
And then he says it focuses on more and wisdom. All wisdom is God's, but he would come to believe completely, because natural science tends to be a bit materialistic, but he will come to believe completely. And saying in the translation here, so
Imam Nursi, was in the period where airplanes were, or he was before that?
1960 he died.
So I think
he knows because he gives example of airplanes in other places.
Oh, really? Yeah. So,
Tayyara, right? Yeah.
So I wrote on Google, what would happen if there were no mountains on Earth, and can life continue? So the answer is, without mountains, Earth would likely become a flat, watery world around 2 kilometers deep ocean on a desolate, sterile landscape with minimal nutrient cycling. Life would likely be restricted to simple marine organisms, potentially stalling the evolution of complex life for billions of years due to nutrition starvation. It means there will be no life. No life, it will be a whole, only water, very deep ocean, one deep ocean. The climate will be very hot. Macroscopic marine life may continue. Anything more complex won't be able to survive. Can you imagine? And we take the mountains for granted. We are really jahul zaluma.
Yeah. Like, so first, the awtad is just one thing that Allah is bringing to our attention. That
and
function.
Then from there we can start thinking.
Yeah. And why? Because at that time, this is as far as they could understand. Like, everything that we're speaking about now with the microorganisms and the minerals and how is it all related and how without it, that they could not have understood. But Allah is saying, don't take it for granted. I'm going to give you one thing that you can all relate to. And now realizing it is just one thing. And there is like millions to follow, subhanAllah.
And also that peg could be interpreted as a pillar, like pillar of life. Like in that sense, it's actually wide enough to...
It's keeping it open. You understand it as you want, pillar of what?
أوتادا والجبال أوتادا, you know. And I wanted to bring to our attention in this translation with Esed, he goes more literal here, and the mountains, its pegs. And Halim translation says, and make the mountains to keep it stable, because he's like Autad is like a pillar, is like a peg. So it is to keep stable, and which is uh, which is an interpretation, and it makes sense, but it is one of the many interpretations possible. Because if it wanted, the verse could have said that to make it stable, it is open-ended, so it includes all of this, from the poet to geographers thinking of it in swimming in space, the geologist looking whether under the earth and all the transformation underneath, and, and all these other things that we came to discover in this age.
Subhanallah. Sha'rawi, who is an Egyptian, like an Egyptian Arabic scholar, and he took upon like a series of like reflections on the Quran from the standpoint of Arabic language. And he would always come at the end and say, and like, the Quran, the way the Arabic of the Quran is revealed in a way that it does not, what's the word? It doesn't, yastadim, does not hit with anyone's, like, it does not stop anyone's imagination. It doesn't contradict, and it doesn't stop anyone. So it is like the words are, one of the miracles is that the words are put down so that with time, meaning will add to it. And now from Nursi's perspective, with different perspectives, meaning will come out. And then the more depth, it has it in a way that everyone forever will keep taking out of it as much as they're ready to receive. So that is one of the miracles of even the wording of the Quran, subhanallah.
I think too what is very affirming about the different vantage points that are spoken about in here is that it's not just the different lens, it's that there are different ways that people will arrive to understanding, and it's not like a one size fit all. And like it's not a one size fit all when you experience like sitting at the base of the tree, like it was talking about earlier. And one of the things that came to my mind, and something that I put in the chat box, is that like this is really an invitation for us to really have an experiential, like you can't just be like here in life and just like living. You have to be awake and experience things. I when I think about the mountains are amazing and scary at the same time. And I recall some years ago I had the opportunity to jump off a cliff into the ocean. Okay. And I'm not light, all right? So I went much deeper than I thought I was going to go in the water. And I opened my eyes, and it's like I saw the reverse of what I saw on the top. Like it was like an underneath cave. Like it was like an underneath like mountain. And the idea of like the mountain as a peg is, it's like but no, it's not. Like it is and it's not at the same time. It's like two realities. If you allow yourself to see it in its grandeur, and then it's just like there's like layers to it, right? Like I don't know if I'm making sense, but subhanallah, it's
You just signed up for the third type of retreat. You're gonna take us jumping because we can't understand what you're talking about until we also jump from the same height and look up from there.
Like there's so much to see, and I feel like if you don't see truly, that's one of the things that I do enjoy about traveling. If you don't see certain things, it's not going to connect. Like it's not going to connect. Although our fitra is going to connect to it. Right? Like it's going to connect to it, but like to actually see it, and you have the gift of being able to see it, there's no doubt. Like there isn't any questioning on like Allah is Allah.
So we need to go to Acadia National Park. It has ocean, it has mountains, and it has a beautiful lake. So you can experience so many things. So next retreat destination is Acadia National Park in Boston.
A very
Okay,
doable.
yeah, we both
Can do
appointed.
that.
Good. What do you say, Alia?
I'm saying Ziba's suggestion is doable. Like, national
Okay,
park,
you're
he can do
part of
that.
the committee too.
It
Alia
only
and
needs
Naima,
intention and decision.
yes, they have been appointed. Naima, Alia, and
I'm a little crazy when it comes to adventure, so you might not want me to you might not want me to, plan it.
The
But
point of retreat is to go a little bit out of your comfort
comfort
zone.
zone. Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't make us pay attention.
Dr. Amina got it.
Yeah, I was saying, Stamina, you remember the Scott, what Scott, which was
yes,
James River? Yeah,
yes.
there was a small creek, but we made it like a swimming pool.
But there was a bend in the creek,
Yeah.
and that bend was wider and deeper because there was a huge tree trunk stopping the water so it would fill well. So we could swim there, and we could even stand on the trunk and dive in. Was still limited.
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
We might have pictures.
And it was
from
private
that.
because it belonged to the property.
Yeah, now we are craving for retreats, inshallah. That's the dua, inshallah, for all of us.
Post
Do
Eid
it. Let's do
craving.
it.
There's like, they call Eid the sugar Eid. Like there was kids songs circulating, and they were calling it sugar Eid. And I was like, sugar
In
Eid.
Turkish,
So
they call it sugar, right?
really, subhanallah. So
Gel
now
bayram.
this retreat is the post Eid cravings, like the sugar post Eid cravings.
Yeah, we have some pictures from previous retreats. If you go on receivingnote.org
Alia
and
was, Alia, I think. Who else was with you who found that beautiful house in Scottsville?
Mariam,
yeah,
Mariam,
Probably Mariam. Yeah.
Mariam.
Yeah.
maybe not Scottsville, but some other ones that we had. Put it in the chat for those of you who.
We had Lake Anna. I have the
But
picture.
Lake
Yeah,
Anna
those are the
was
pictures
in
that
March. It was still
Cold. It was cold. Yeah.
still cold.
yeah. So yeah, you three are part of the committee. You can decide.
Decide where you want to go.
Yes, even I please.
Yeah. But I was just thinking, like, when we were reading Nurses, that when he was, like, when I read شجون وأغصان وفنون, I was thinking, like, depending on where you are spiritually, there could be something that, like, all this amazement on, like, the actual physical functions and the physical and life functions of the mountains. There could be another deeper layer that that people will connect with at different times, depending on things that are happening in their life, where they could see something as as the, like, when they say, you are my hero, this is, this thing Allah made for me, like as the mountains are for earth, like, people then will take it into a different, like, heart moving kind of feeling that's related to their personal happenings in their life, and that will be the inner part of it. Wallahu a'lam.
Yeah.
Also here he's talked a lot about the tent because the word autad is the word used for tent, the pegs of the tent. Because in other parts of the Quran, it says rawasiya, جعلنا الجبال رواسيا, which rawasiya is more like grounding, stabilizing. What is anchor? Anchor. It's like, and so when you there, it's talking more about the function of the hugeness of the mountain. It's how do you say? Its weight and its being huge and being an anchor. But in this description, what comes to your mind is a tent because autad are used for tents. So it's a different, again, but each time there is an image, and that image is pointing towards the function of the jibal, of the mountain.
And both Autad and Rawasiya, they both have the connotation of like something inside the earth, like some part is outside and other part is inside. Like and when we like physically when we go and search for it, they said that mountain up above the earth is less as compared to how much it is under the earth. So Autad also gives that same feeling when you put a peg in the earth. Then some part is outside and the piercing part is inside. And when you're saying Ravasiya, also stabilizing, so that's also with inside, So it also gives you the double imagery, like something is button, like Dahir, and some things are hidden as well inside.
In Balagha, it's understood as Rawasiya makes you think more of what the mountain is, and Autad is an active role of what the mountain does, which for me, both of them, they're not part of our perception of the mountain.
So it is initiating us to the step of seeing them as signs, as ayat, these mountains, as opposed to just some beautiful things or majestic things and
sitting there.
Yeah. What is it?
Sometimes
Sitting
we don't
there. Okay.
just sitting there.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it's interesting because in the first couple ones there was like a emphasis on poetry, like a poet's share, a twin-dwelling man with like a literary bent, a geographer with a literary poetic approach. And yet in the very beginning of the treatise, when it was defining what the Quran is, one of the things was that the Quran is not poetry. It doesn't mean poetic imagination is useless when you are reflecting on the Quran, but it is highlighting that it isn't just to give you some nice image that you kind of enjoy, but it doesn't really connect to the reality of things. But it's nice to think about it this way, the metaphorically think about this way, like a tent. No, in all of these examples, even though there's a poetic bent in some of them, it brings us back to paying attention to these beings around us, these mountains that we take for granted, and it's based on reality that these mountains actually have. We're not just making this up, like we're not just being poetic, projecting our literary metaphors onto these mountains. They are majestic, and they do imply the use of tent here. It does imply that this is a place that things are set up, whether you think about the sky as part of the tent, or the soil as the tent, or the earth as like a spaceship floating in space. In all of these kind of metaphoric kind of ways of thinking about mountains, there is reality. You're not just like wishful thinking, throwing around some poetic things. They all make us pay attention to how things are ayah, pointing to something beyond.
And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even poetic hadith about the mountains, like Uhud Jabal yuhibbuna wa nuhibbu, like, that the mountain of Uhud loves us and we love it. There's even emotions that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has assigned to the mountain. And then the stories of, calling out, and the mountain calling out to tell people to watch out from, like, people are attacking. So, like, that the mountain has that this mountain, just like everything else, has feelings and has feelings towards us.
As malakut.
Yeah, has its own malakut, and that it loves the believers. Yeah, subhanallah.
Otherwise, how can we love something? If we love something, it means there is something in it that is lovable, and that answers our love. Actually, the hadith starts with Uhud tuhibbuna. Like, Uhud loves us and we love Uhud. Subhanallah.
Like, its love for us makes us love it, almost.
Yes, yes. There is
Like,
something
the reason,
lovable in it.
the reason I am made to love it is that it loves me.
This may be going towards the inner dimension.
Yes, yeah. That's Prophet's hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's how he connected. Like, everyone connects, and that shows that our Prophet's way of look, like how he was connected to the creation around.
Alhamdulillah, this was a nice lesson.
And looking to the moon and saying, Rabbi wa Rabbuka Allah. Like, that always, whenever it's full moon, this comes to my heart, subhanallah. Like, he connected at a different level, obviously, mashallah.
MashaAllah, thank you for sharing. Now, there is another example he gives in this regard, but I think we'll just stop here for tonight and continue from this next time. So the next verse is going to be, استعوذ بالله, إن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما. This is Surah 21, verse 30, Surah Anbiya. The heavens and the earth were joined together before we clove them asunder, or we clove them asunder. So we're going to also look at different ways of understanding that verse, and everybody getting their share.
Quoted a lot for people who want to prove Big Bang is correct.
Big Bang things like bursting was, could be. All right, so stay with us. This was kind of preview for next week. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina, and everybody else. And would you please say a final dua? Dr. Yamina.
Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali al-azim. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant. خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء لك بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت اللهم إنا نسألك من الخير كله عاجله وآجله وما علمت منه وما لم أعلم ونعوذ به let's make it plural ونعوذ بك من الشر كله عاجله وآجله ما علمنا منه وما لم نعلم ونسألك الجنة وما يقرب إليها من قول أو عمل ونعوذ بك من النار وما يقرب إليها من قول أو عمل، ونسألك من كل قضاء تقضيه لنا خيرا. آمين. والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. الله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. May Allah be with those who, with the oppressed and المستضعفين المظلومين,
آمين
especially from the Muslim Ummah.
آمين يا
شاء
رب.
الله. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين.
آمين يا رب.
اللهم اهدنا إلى الصراط المستقيم واجعلنا من الشاكرين المستغفرين.
آمين. استغفر الله وأتوب إليه.
آمين.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.